Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. Bill Pucko, happy to be with you. Back in the studio, second week. It's great. It's great. Tariq, good to see you.
So far, so good. Good to be back.
Pat Duffy, wearing the uniform.
I think it was a rule in between like 2002 to 2005, if you were of a certain age, that you had to own a Steve Nash jersey, right? And it fits now with them back in the finals. First win in, 20, 30 years in the NBA Finals for the Suns?
Yeah, the Suns have got some great unis now, too, though, right? The variety
the
of things
Valley
that they
with
use.
the thing across the chest.
That's pretty cool. Tariq, let's, early Olympic talk.
Yeah.
Sha'Carri Richardson gets banned from the Olympics at the trial. She wins the 100-meter dash. She gets banned from marijuana use. And my first thing is, first of all, I thought marijuana use and gambling are the two things you can't be guilty of anymore.
Well, it's funny. I think this is really just about marijuana use because the interesting part about Richardson, I wanted to see her so bad. She was part of my Unfinished Business a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. It was really, as a sports fan, and you know this, Duffy, you want the alpha going against the alpha. You want the best against the best. That's what the Olympics is all about. We're not going to get that due to the world anti-doping test that came back from marijuana. But the real strike here has to do with so many people who now see marijuana legal in this country want to say, well, wait a minute, it's not like she took a steroid. It's not like she took a human growth hormone. It was marijuana, something that I take or maybe I use for whatever reason, recreational or not. I think this is sort of one of those situations where it's not one of those performance enhancing ones, but it's still on the list. And you go with the NFL, you go with the NBA. They're starting to move that off of the ban list. The Olympics is not there yet, unfortunately. Plus, there are other athletes that took this test and they passed it. So I feel terrible because I wanted her on the screen so bad. I still do. Even to this moment, I kind of want to see her race in the Olympics because she's that big of a draw. But I just don't think it's going to happen.
So I have to ask you, because the national commentators bring it up. Mm-hmm. There's an element of race to this move, and it comes out all the time.
Yeah.
Do you see it that way?
Yes, slightly, but I see it more as one of those situations where it is, okay, so if she's on the team, she runs, she's one of the fastest, we glorify her, and that's the way it goes. What I'm against is not having people watch it because she's not there, because basically you're taking away from other African-American athletes who did it the right way, who are on the team. So I don't really see it as that big of a deal when it comes to racial aspects of it. I know they try to compare Michael Phelps, totally situation. He didn't do it during a competition. He got caught with a bong and he did lose endorsements. But I'm just upset emotionally that we won't see the best runner in our country at the Olympics this year. But even to her tweet, I'm happy to know that she'll be in the World Championships next year.
Yeah, I don't know how all these pieces fit together, and they don't seem to, but I thought we were past this point.
Well, I mean, look, the rule is archaic. The rule is stupid. It's not a performance-enhancing drug. But I hate to sound like old guy here. The rule, I mean, but you knew the rule. Look. I want to see her race too. Like, not only is she phenomenal, but the personality is there, right? Like, that woman would have been a star. And thank God that, the Summer Olympics are coming up shorter because of everything with COVID. But bottom line is, like, everybody else that's competing, observe that rule.
Yeah.
You knew it was a rule. I understand that she's going through a lot of personal stuff with her mother passing away, what was it, a month ago? She came out and said herself, like, she made this mistake. She knew what she did. Yeah. If you would have went back on it, well, then you would have had complaints. Look, I mean, I'm sure she's not the only person smoking pot, taking edibles, whatever, that's an Olympic athlete right now. If you let her go back, well, what about those folks that were observing the rules for the last 6, 12 months? It stinks. Change the rule. But I don't know how you can have a race if she out and out admits she did something that she wasn't allowed to be doing.
Are you on the same page?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know what it is? It's the unfortunate aspect of, yes, rules are rules. I get it. I think there's a lot of people that feel as if we were rooting for her. She was our champion.
Sure, yeah.
She was our champion. And I think that's what happens when you get to the Olympics and you don't have your champion run. It's kind of like whoever wins this race will try to actually bring more attention to the world championship because she will be there with whoever wins the gold
well, that's
here.
The premier race, and she's got the colored hair, and she's the cover person. She would be the cover person for our Olympic team, and the coaches have a chance to, fix it because they got a couple of picks, but they were promised to somebody else.
But here's the thing. Think about this. 3 years from now, I mean, you not only have best athlete in the world potentially, but redemption story.
Yes.
I mean, it stinks now. If everything maintains over the next 3 years, what a story that's going to be.
Can I also be fair in understanding, like, remember, we were supposed to have these Olympics last year. So now you've delayed it another year, which means whoever was going to be on that, 4x100 meter race, you would probably take them off of there, put her on there. That really disrupts the team and the chemistry. I just keep it the way it is. I understand it's a very tough decision, but it was made. We have to move on, and I would love to see her race if it's possible.
We are the Rochester Press Box to talk Buffalo Bills next.
Original Bay Goodman Pizza, located on the corner of North Winton at Browncroft. There are 3 ways to get the original Bay and Goodman delivery. Go to baygoodman.com.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. Bill, Tariq, and Duffy. Let's talk Buffalo Bills. We're hearing a lot from Cole Beasley and the whole vaccine thing. He's a very public anti-vaxxer, and the NFL has come out with training camp rules that are effective at the beginning of training camp. They make it very difficult on these people.
I mean, look, the NFL, they got themselves a problem. Look, I think they thought the rules to make the camps and practices and the whole facilities easier was going to encourage all of these players. I mean, it was a short-sighted thought because, look, all of these NFL players are independent thinking people, and we've been seeing that more and more over the last decade. I mean, how many discussions have we had about, freedom of speech and what's allowed and what's suspendable and this, that, and the other thing? I mean, does the NFL not learn any lesson that you can't have this herd mentality when it comes to guys that are making millions of dollars that have causes that, look, agree with Cole Beasley, disagree with Cole Beasley, and the people that are citing behind Cole Beasley? There's nothing you can do. This guy ain't going to change his mind, right? Like, Cole Beasley is not going to come out before a training camp and be like, guess what? Got 2 shots. Everything's fine now, right? And if you do anything, the NFL has only put a brighter spotlight on this because you can make the argument that the Bills are now going to be at a competitive disadvantage because of someone speaking out against something that he didn't agree with. So, hey, let's take this thing that we wanted to remedy and push aside and make sure the NFL and make it huge. It's like it's such the most NFL thing you've ever heard of.
So what's great about this is a slight repeat from last year. So remember when we had COVID, the NFL was in their offseason. It was over. Yeah. They basically we saw the Super Bowl. It was all good. Yeah, we'll be fine by September. We'll put fans in, whatever. Then of course COVID doesn't go. COVID stays, and then the NFL brings back football, and of course there's no fans in the stands, and they go through the season and finally get through the Super Bowl with all these different rule changes in between. When they had time to make adjustments before they got to their NFL season, they didn't. Here they are again in a similar situation where, our players are not on the same page as we are, but they have rights, and they have Twitter accounts, and they have Instagram, and they have a forum, and they have a way to express themselves. So the NFL has not learned from last year that you have to get ahead of these situations. How can you have a multi-billion-dollar corporation and not know how many scenarios are coming out of here? Cole Beasley is doing exactly what he needs to do, what he feels is right, and he has every right to do it.
Do you guys think that the NFL, Tariq, thought that by instituting these rules that they could sort of arm twist the guys and do it? I mean, because it's things like you can't use a sauna when you're on the road, you can't go in a restaurant, you got to socially isolate, you got to wear a mask. It's all this stuff, and it's like anybody that's on the fence is going to take the vaccine, which is, Josh Allen is one of those people.
Yeah.
But did you think that they just did this thinking that these players will come around?
I think so. I think they thought to themselves, these players make so much money, they'll want to play. They've spent their entire lives playing football. They'll go out there and
but they'll want to eat at a restaurant.
And that they'd want to be out there and do it. But no, there's so many different people that have different views on whether to get this vaccine or not, even now. And it doesn't just matter where you come from, what socioeconomic background, whether you're black, white, it doesn't matter. There's so many different people that are just not interested in getting this vaccine. We did not reach the goals we were supposed to by 4th of July that Biden put in. There's a reason why, because people don't want it. People are not interested in it. They think they can get by without it. They have different opinions, and the NFL players have that.
It's just like, how did you not see this coming? How did you not, how many of this exact same controversy over the last 25 years has the NFL gone through? Let's just use, I know it's a completely different scenario, but when it comes to players speaking out against the NFL, what the NFL wanted, let's use the Kaepernick situation. How many guys did you see decide once 1, 3, 5 players stood up? Okay, well now there's strength in numbers, and I'm going to voice my opinion on how I feel about something. It's different, but when it comes to opinion, it's a similar situation. How do you look at that story and not think there was going to be something like this that was going to happen and put a brighter light on the issue that you have?
I think it's safe to say it's an unpopular opinion to take. what Cole Beasley is doing, but is it a part of you respects him for the fact that he's owning it and actually coming forward and saying, this is how I think?
I don't know if respect is the right word. I mean, look, it's your right to do it. I mean, that's a tough question.
He puts himself out there because he talks about it. He talks about it a lot, and he's almost to the point of being a militant.
Okay, sure, but there are tons of opinions that people could have where they're going to put themselves out there, and I'm not going to look at that person and go, I respect you for it. I mean, the guy's taking a risk, but then again, I'm a big risk versus reward guy. I'm also a Bills fan, right? So, like, I could sit here and say that the guy has a right to do what he's doing, and, God bless him, right? But if we're in week 13, and all of a sudden something happens, and again, you can't attribute it to Cole Beasley, but Cole Beasley has to keep that in mind too. If something happens on this Bills roster, all of the light is going to be on Cole Beasley. If something happens in the playoffs, all of the light is going to be on Cole Beasley, right? There's a risk versus reward to all of these things. So, to answer your question, I don't know.
That's what it's a good question. So do you think? So how do you see it playing out?
I feel terrible for Duffy because this is the year. This is the year for you guys, and of all the things, last thing you want is to relive last year and your team get a bug that could have been prevented before the season starts.
Well, we see Beasley, but every team in the NFL must
100%.
be dealing with the same thing.
Agree.
100%. But again, it's not perception, or it's not reality, it's perception, right? If Cole Beasley wants to be the guy that stands up and waves the flag for this, well, Cole Beasley is going to be the one that catches the shrapnel if everything blows up. And look, the Bills went through something like this, not within their own roster, but what happened with the Tennessee Titans in, I believe it was week 4 last year, how the schedule got all screwed up, how everything got turned backwards, how McDermott, who's a big schedule guy, was taken off his game, and the Bills went into Tennessee and got blown out by an inferior opponent on national television. I don't want to relive that again, and I don't want it to happen in a game that legitimately matters for this team.
I just want to hope nothing happens.
Well, yeah.
7 months from now, it's just like everything's fine. We're on the other side. Nothing to worry about.
This is the Rochester Press Box. Like it or not, is next. Here's the Press Box trivia question brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
All of these things show Josh Allen has a strive for greatness inside of him.
Falcon Around with Carl Falk. New episodes every Tuesday on Rock Sports Now.
Here's the Press Box trivia answer brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Are you facing criminal charges from a DWI and feel that you never imagined it could happen to you? Contact attorneys with years of experience as prosecutors and defenders. Contact Ganguly Brothers Law today for a free consultation. You can put your trust in us.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. This segment of the Press Box brought to you by Ganguly Brothers Law Firm. Attorneys with years of experience defending the accused. Don't go unprepared. Contact Ganguly Law today. Pat, like it or not, what the Tampa Bay Lightning has done, and I set it up by saying it was 3 years, I think it's 2019, they broke all the records. They had this monster team, first round Stanley Cup playoffs, swept by Columbus. The next 2 years, they discover something, and, they win a Stanley Cup, and as we speak, they're on the verge of winning a second.
It's all about role players, right? Like the NHL, I think more than any other of the 4 major sports, you can have all the superstars in the world. You need to play roles. Like, I'll use an example. The St. Louis Blues, when Gretzky was traded there towards the end of the season, you had Gretzky, you had Brett Hull. I could go on and on and on and on. If I'm not mistaken, they lost in the first round of the playoffs as well, because you need guys to do certain things. You need someone who's going to go into the corner. You need a little bit of grit. You need a guy who knows a stay-home defenseman. You need a defenseman that's going to move, and you need to know how to put all of those guys together. I mean, the coaches in Tampa Bay, and the players for that matter, they had been successful in the regular season, but they hadn't made deep playoff runs. You have to adjust the way you play the game, the way you set your lines when it comes to playoff hockey, and I mean, it was embarrassing to win the President's Trophy and be swept by a Columbus team.
It wasn't just a President's Trophy. I mean, this was an epic team.
Sure, but, I mean, you didn't make the adjustment when you got into the playoffs. Thank God for the Lightning. I mean, I hate the Lightning, but thank God for their fans that they were able to figure it out. And credit to them. Cooper, the head coach over there, put it all together. The general manager gave him what he needed to get. And by the way, stashing players on the IR the entire season this year and then activating them for the playoffs to be the best player in the playoffs doesn't hurt either, borderline cheating. But yeah, it's all about role playing.
Tariq, do you see this in other sports? Is this unique to hockey, or is this something that everyone goes through?
No, I'll give you the disaster in the NBA. Look at Philadelphia, the process, and putting all these pieces together and adding people and then getting to the point where you drafted Ben Simmons thinking he was going to be a great player, and then he folds in the playoffs. The same thing with the Boston Celtics. Same sort of Kyrie Irving in, Kyrie Irving out. Now we think we're better, and now we think we've got the team together. And of course, Kemba Walker in, now Kemba Walker out. So it happens in other sports.
But you bring up the Celtics. Let's use that championship run as a perfect example. You got the big three in Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, and Paul Pierce. But, I mean, Eddie House is getting legitimate minutes. Glenn Davis is getting legitimate minutes. Rasheed Wallace at one point is getting legitimate minutes. Sam Cassell shows up. You don't win a championship without those guys. Kendrick Perkins cannot play basketball. But you don't win that championship without having him play his role.
And that was one of the most surprising ones because, to your point, they threw this all together in 1 year. It says, all right, let's see what we can do with it. And it worked.
Yeah.
That doesn't usually happen.
Yeah.
This is the Rochester Press Box. Like it or not, brought to you by Ganguly Brothers Law, and Unfinished Business is next.
The Press Box Stat of the Week is being brought to you by McArdle's Restaurant in Fairport. McArdle's is open 7 days a week with dining available indoors and out, takeout and delivery. Come home to McArdle's.
And now to Eichel. He floated one. Score!
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here in the Rochester Press Box. It is time for Unfinished Business, and Pat Duffy starts us off.
So there's been a big complaint during the NBA Finals that these aren't going to be legitimate because everybody's getting hurt along the way. You have Giannis as the only superstar playing in the finals. You can make the argument about Chris Paul, but, you know, he's past his prime. And even Giannis is playing hurt. So then why the heck are you sending NBA players to Vegas right now to participate in the training camp to play Olympic basketball? Don't get me wrong. I love watching Olympic basketball with NBA players in it. But look, you've played 2 seasons in the time it normally takes to play 1 season. And you got guys that were dealing with injury issues coming right out of the playoffs, showing up at this training camp, and then are going to take off and go play in Tokyo. By the way, who just declared a state of emergency because of COVID 2 weeks before the game starts. I don't know how to feel because there's something about watching our country's superstars put on that star, the USA across their chest, that makes me feel ultra patriotic. But I also know when it comes to next season for the NBA and the season after for the NHL, if they go to the Winter Olympics, we're going to pay for it, and it might be long term.
In the NBA Finals right now, I've never been in a situation where I actually am rooting for both teams. Normally it's, I root against the Lakers, I root against the Warriors, I root against the Cavaliers. But this team, well, both teams, I kind of like. Giannis winning a championship would be great. Chris Middleton has been unbelievable. My player of the year to watch in the playoffs has been PJ Tucker. I love what Drew Holiday has done. Then you go over to Phoenix. I would like to see Chris Paul win a championship. I would like to see Devin Booker win a championship. DeAndre Ayton looked like a bust, but now it's turned into a great player. And the Phoenix Suns would be a great championship. All I can say is that I've never been in a situation where I've rooted for or against one other team. I'm rooting for both. The problem is you can't split a championship.
Fairport's own Pete Dupre is a 98-year-old veteran of World War II. He worked in a hospital treating those injured in the Battle of the Bulge, essentially the last stand for Hitler in 1945. Dupre graduated from Edison Tech in 1942. He likes Johann Strauss waltzes. He lives by the words, "Don't let the old man in," and plays the harmonica like nobody's business. So why does Harmonica Pete, as he is known, find himself in the middle of a controversy? Because he deals in the business of playing the national anthem, which is often a no-win situation these days. It certainly was in East Hartford, Connecticut on Monday. Pete played the anthem prior to the U.S. national women's soccer game with Mexico, the team's final Olympic tune-up. The United States players lined up and faced either the American flag flying at one side of the stadium or faced Pete as he performed. Granted, the optics weren't great. Well, out came the conservatives to take on one of their favorite targets. The women were accused of either disrespecting the flag or disrespecting Pete, depending on which way they had turned. One of the former president's cabinet members even got into the act and called the Olympians self-obsessed children. Here's the thing, guys. You can't have it both ways. Get your story straight. Agree on a tactic. It'll make it a little bit easier to try to get us to believe that COVID-19 was created by Big Pharma, that the election was fixed, and that model Chrissy Teigen actually does not eat children. That is Unfinished Business, and that is our program. Thank you, guys. Tariq?
All right. Well, Duffy, always good to see you. Love that Suns jersey.
Yeah, no, yeah, great to see you too. And I don't think I'm going to wear it for a long time again because it's like 3 sizes too big. You remember jerseys in like 2003.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week with the Rochester Press Box.